Good morning once again and welcome back to New Day here on TV3. It's a Monday morning and yes, there will be challenges throughout this week, but hopefully after this you'll be ready to face all of them. Now it's time for our health segment, which is kindly brought to you by Lipton Tea, inspiration flowing from nature. However, this is the health segment, and I have to make a quick announcement before it becomes detrimental to my health. I want to say a big happy birthday to Nana Akosia Techia Aborihima, aka Grandma. I want to say a big happy birthday to you. She's 85 today. Love you. And Dr. Bote, you also have a happy birthday. You want to say quickly?
Yeah, I want to say happy birthday in advance to my mom, who's celebrating her birthday tomorrow.
Okay.
I want to wish her all the best and long life, health and strength and wealth. I appreciate her a lot of all that she's done and her care and having brought me this far. I'm very grateful. Her name is Grace Ode-Ayi.
Happy birthday, Mommy Grace. All right, so now that our health is in check and we can continue, we're talking about brain tumors today. Now, I just want to say before we do actually go on, we will be using some graphic images which will depict the operations and certain procedures that are taken when it comes to brain tumors. So please be aware of that. And if you are sensitive to such graphic images, then obviously you have been warned. Dr. Bote, good morning to you.
Good morning, Benny.
How's everything going?
Good.
Good. Today we're going to be talking about brain tumors. And as we were saying, offset, this is probably one of the most least diagnosed ailments that we have because it's one of the extreme...
That's right. Brain tumors, they may not be as common as other conditions, but they are there.
They are there.
And as you rightly said, they are sometimes not diagnosed quickly enough. However, with the proliferation of CT scans and MRIs now, the incidence of getting to diagnose them is increasing. But the reason why they are not usually diagnosed quickly or sometimes misdiagnosed is that the kind of symptoms it presents with is just like the symptoms of any other thing.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, a brain tumor will not give you pain, as in you having feeling pain in your brain. You know, your brain can take sensations from other parts of your body. Pain from other parts of your body is transferred through the spinal cord to the brain to process, and then you take action. Yeah. But the brain, the meninges of the brain, the covering of the brain itself, does not have nerves on its own that would
feel brain pain.
Yeah. So when there's a tumor in the brain, when there's a mass in the brain, for the brain itself to send signals to itself that there's a problem, there's nothing like that.
Right.
So the tumor will be in the brain, gradually increasing in size, and then the only thing is that it starts giving you certain things we call like pressure symptoms. So, inadvertently, you've hit us into some of the symptoms of brain tumors.
That's right. Okay, before we actually go into the symptoms of the brain tumor, let's explain what a brain tumor actually is.
Okay, now, a brain tumor, we have our brain is housed in the skull. It's a hard, bony structure. So the brain is actually confined in this bony structure. It's a gelatinous mass with a lot of convolutions, as you see on pictures. Now, there are so many parts of the brain: the frontal lobe, the temporal lobe, the parietal lobe, the occipital lobe. They are all there. And each of these parts of the brain has a part of your body, a part of your personality it affects. So your thinking, your planning, your solving problems, your remembering things, your memory, your sensation of temperature, your sensation of everything goes on within the brain.
Yeah.
Now, normally all cells in your body, as I've said before, they regenerate. Cells die off and new cells form. So that as you grow. But then whenever a tumor comes in, it means that the cells of a tumor, when they start growing, they never die.
Right.
So they are way more than Methuselahs in terms of cells. They
continue to regenerate.
Yeah, they continue to regenerate, multiply, and then would then be occupying space. Would then becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. They cause pressure symptoms. They can even, some of them can be benign, as in the tumor does not is not aggressive. It doesn't go to other parts of your body.
Right.
Other ones are also very aggressive. They metastasize to other parts of the body. So a tumor is basically an abnormal growth of cells. It can be any part of your body can have abnormal growth of cells. But in the brain in particular, it is an abnormal growth of brain cells, which could be any part of the brain cells, the the cerebrum itself, the medulla oblongata, the cerebellum, things that even control your balance. The cerebellum controls balance, your spatial orientation.
That's right.
So when all these things, when tumors begin to affect these particular points in your brain, then eventually, as I said, you may not have pain, so it may be developing over time. All you have is that there may be symptoms like headaches and all these things coming on.
They also mimic plenty of
They
other
mimic
diseases.
a lot of
That's
things.
why. Okay, so what causes brain tumors? I mean, like I said, it is a mass that collects and regenerates, but what causes that?
Unfortunately, the cause of brain tumors is to a large extent unknown.
Right.
To a large extent, it's not known why it happens. There's that linkages have been found that in terms of age, children do get it, adults do get it. Other linkages that have the only linkage that has been found is radiation. When people are exposed to ionizing radiation, or maybe somebody who maybe in their childhood had a particular kind of cancer. Children do get something called Hodgkin's lymphomas. They get other kinds of leukemias. And so with that kind of, maybe they were treated with radiation. That kind of radiation may be a factor that in future can lead to a child developing or an adult developing a cancer. There are genetic reasons to that have been purported to be linked, that if there's a family member, mother, father, sister, brother, who had a brain tumor before, chances are somebody else could also have it. Then also there are other genetic things like genetic diseases, Turner syndrome, or some, I don't want to use the big words, neurofibromatosis.
That's a bit too much stuff.
It's too much, and it's not, we don't really need it. But there are genetic things that have been linked to.
So there's no physical things that can actually cause tumor, because there was an argument that certain sports, aggressive sports, not only do they cause brain damage but can lead to tumors. Now, obviously, I mean, the sports that we're talking about are very violent sports. We're talking about, the physical ones, i.e. Boxing, mixed martial arts, car racing when they have accidents, and stuff like that. But brain damage is different to a tumor.
Yeah. When it comes to trauma, we can have trauma, somebody getting involved in all these kind of sports, very violent sports, and they have injuries. Now, what happens to them is not really a brain tumor. What it is they may be bleeding. The brain has its covering.
Yes. And
we call it the meninges. The space is called the subarachnoid space. And so when there's that kind of trauma to it, there are blood vessels all over. So there may be bleeding, gradual bleeding, or sudden bleeds into portions of the brain.
Right.
So this will cause a bleeding into the subarachnoid area, we call the subarachnoid hemorrhage. So somebody can have massive subarachnoid hemorrhage. Somebody can have thrombosis, thrombus form in the brain.
Yeah.
So someone with a massive subarachnoid hemorrhage, for example, would end up having other symptoms like as though somebody who has meningitis, his neck becomes stiff, he cannot move, sometimes he go unconscious. But in that case, it is not a brain tumor, but it's what we call, maybe I'll call a hemangioma or hematoma. Right? So it's blood collection. But if this also exerts pressure on portions of the brain, then the pressure effects on the part of the brain that portion, the part of the body that portion controls, would be affected.
Right. Okay. Now let's talk about symptoms, because everything that we've spoken about makes it even more tricky to detect tumors if you're actually looking at the symptoms. No.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are some of the symptoms?
Yeah. So as I said, because the brain doesn't on its own have a
brain pain message.
Messengers there, the tumor will be growing, and you may never know. So all you realize is that at a point, maybe you are young, you are growing up, you don't really have headaches often, you don't have migraines often. All of a sudden, you get to a certain age, and you start having maybe migraines, one-sided headaches, and it's persistent. It goes and comes, and sometimes you think it's stress, or as usual, you go and take malaria course, or maybe I have malaria. You keep treating, and it keeps going and coming, and keeps going and coming. It may not only be just migraine. There may be a factor. You are above 50 years. You never used to have headaches, and then all of a sudden you start having headaches. This must be investigated, and not just your blood pressure is normal. You don't have any signs of infection, and yet you are constantly having headaches. It could just be that there is a tumor in the brain that is causing what we call increased intracranial pressure. Mm-hmm. So pressure symptoms on the brain matter is what may eventually give you those headaches. And apart from the headaches, again, with the increase in intracranial pressure, there's compression on certain parts of the brain. Mm-hmm. So you'll be having these on and off headaches, increasing frequency, and then you may be having nausea, and sometimes you'll be vomiting, unexplained vomiting.
Right.
And then that's when you'll be thinking that, I have an infection, I have malaria, I have this, and then you'll be treating yourself, or a doctor may also misdiagnose and think that it is this. What can happen, apart from the headaches and then the vomiting? People, usually about 33% of people will present with having gotten seizures or fits.
Right.
They fit. Now, it's different if you are somebody who has a history of epilepsy. Then we know that, history is there. But if you are not an epileptic, you never had a fit in your life, and all of a sudden you are at a certain age and you have a fit, it's a sign of something else in the brain. Because epileptic, has its own family history and all that.
Yes.
But there's nothing like that, and you have fits. And then you get to a certain age and you have unexplained your sight becomes suspicious. You are seeing floaters. You are seeing your visual fields are such that you cannot see in certain,
like peripheral vision.
Peripheral vision is not there, or you have tunnel vision. You have double vision. You are seeing twos. I mean, it's not. You need to go because you need to see your optician, because probably for example, we have what we call the pituitary gland, which is just behind the eye. So just behind the eye, you have the pituitary gland there. It's in the small hole over there. And the optic nerve of the eye just goes back and they cross. They kind of meet at the pituitary gland. So if there's a tumor of the pituitary gland which is compressing on this optic nerve, then it's going to affect your optic.
Will an optician be able to see that if they do an eye test or check?
Yeah, depending. Yeah, when they do the eye test, we have names of the hemianopias and all that. So depending on what they see in your visual field, they can be able to they say that this is because of a pituitary tumor or tumor of the pituitary gland that is exerting pressure on the optic.
They also say hand-eye coordination. For instance, the usual things like picking up a mug, like how we do. You've got a mug here. Yeah. You may be, reaching out for the wrong, place and everything.
That is
total dysentery.
Exactly. That's why you say, "How you do?" Because you see the thing there, and you just want to pick the thing up, and you go, and your hand seems to go.
Speech difficulties.
Speech difficulties, because the tumor may probably be affecting the part of your brain that controls your speech. There's sometimes the frontal lobe, there's sometimes the parietal lobe, even sometimes your planning, your personality gets affected. You can't solve problems, you are disoriented, you forget too quickly.
I saw an instance where somebody was being spoken to, and that person, in their mind, was giving a direct answer. So they would be saying, for instance, he would say, "How are you?" And he would respond by saying, "Connecticut is warm." It really has nothing to do with the conversation, but in his head he answered, "I am fine." And it's the speech patterns that were woven in the brain that have crossed because of the pressure. Is that
exactly
right? Yeah,
exactly. It's totally disoriented and giving inappropriate answers to questions that they are being asked. He thinks he's giving the right answer. When people have this kind of central nervous system issues, they ask them questions and they be telling you something, you're thinking he's answering you.
Yeah.
But it's because of sometimes the pressure on the speech centers.
Okay, let's talk about treatment. How do we treat a brain tumor? Obviously, there would be different treatments for how developed the tumor is. So let's start off with, first off, noticing that you have a tumor, and it is, let's just say, within a very quick amount of time. What would be the procedure for yourselves?
Yeah, brain tumors are usually diagnosed first with, now we have very good CT scans and MRI, magnetic resonance imaging machines that can pick up. We take the layers of the brain, and if there's a tumor somewhere, it can be found and noticed. Again, there are what we call the primary tumors and the secondary tumors. Yeah. The primary tumors are tumors that actually originate from the brain itself, from brain cell itself. And then the secondary ones are those that metastasize from other cancers from other parts of the body. For example, lung cancer, kidney cancer, the breast cancer. They find their way through blood or some means into the brain. Those are secondaries. Now, if a brain tumor is found, what to do is to first they try to take a biopsy of it and stage it to see the stage at which it's gotten to, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, to know whether it's benign or it's malignant. If it's malignant, which state has it gotten to? If it hasn't spread, then it's localized. Then that would be a way of tailoring the kind of the appropriate treatment that has to be given to it. And the treatment comes in threefold. Either you have surgery done, or you have
removed.
You have surgery, the craniotomy. They open the brain, open the skull, get to the tumor and resect the tumor. Or sometimes they do minimally invasive ones, like the pituitary one that is just behind the eye. They can go through them, those transnasal, just go to the nasal passages and then resect the tumor there. So those are surgical ways of handling it. Then there are some too that they are able to target radiation. So radiotherapy is one of the other ways where radiations are targeted.
Chemo.
Yeah. And then chemo is usually when the thing has sometimes spread already.
Okay.
And
so radiotherapy, which localized.
Yeah. So radiotherapy that can become more localized. Surgery can also be more localized. But when they spread, then we are looking at using cytotoxics, chemotherapy for you to be taking medications. And that one, it has a lot of side effects because it affects as much some normal cells as well. Has side effects.
Reduces your immune system.
Your hair, you lose your hair, your tongue becomes dark, etc. But recently, in the year 2000, a virus was found, which virus has oncolytic effect. In other words, a virus called the vesicular stomatitis virus that was found is able to kill cancer cells, brain cancer cells.
Okay.
So this is the latest development so far that they are trying to work on. But it just doesn't do it on its own. We add something called the interferons, a certain chemical called, or a certain product called interferons to the virus. And then when it goes there, this virus is actually able to eat up the cancer cells without eating the normal cells.
Wow.
So that's the
and then what happens to that particular virus? It dies out?
You see? it dies off. This is some of the advantages of we have probiotics.
Yes.
You have
good bacteria
in the gut that produce some vitamins sometimes for you. Yeah. So this is one breakthrough in terms. Viruses are very bad.
So this is one of the good viruses.
It's a good virus.
So even if it's there, it's okay.
Leave it there. So you can use that to help deal with the brain tumors.
Okay.
So these are the various mechanisms or various ways by which it can be done. The most important thing is diagnosing and diagnose quickly enough. Okay. So you have somebody having seizures, collapsing here and there, unexplained.
Okay, let's talk about recovery from surgery or treatment for brain tumors. You find some people don't have the same motor skills when they finish having surgery, like we're saying about the speech, the hand-eye coordination, and general day-to-day activities. Why is that? I mean, because obviously if they've taken the bad part out, the tumor, and your brain is okay now, then why is it you're still having these kind of after effects?
Yeah, for some people, even after a brain tumor is resected, maybe they were having seizures and as part of their symptoms, the tumor is resected, but there's been some distraction that's taking place already in terms of the neurons of the brain. So that kind of deficit may still be there. Yeah. Some of the signs may still be there. So there may be resection, but you may not come back to. Some people do have full recovery. I've seen somebody who was an alcoholic, eventually had a tumor in the brain. That one was a hematoma, a big hematoma. Yeah. He went in, he was taken out, he came back walking and everything normal. A few people may have certain deficits that they may not be able to recover from. But then, at least, the object is to have an improvement upon what it was before you went in. Yes. For example, an orthopedic surgeon usually is more concerned about the function of the limb rather than how the bone
together.
fused on it. They're looking more for function.
Yeah.
So there may be a few deficits here and there after the surgery. Like every surgery has its complication. That is why sometimes if there's the chance to do radiotherapy, it may rather be done. And then,
can the neurons rebuild themselves or regenerate? Because, like you said, I mean, there's some people who will come out, say 80% the way they were before the treatment, and then gradually began to regain their motor skills. Does that mean that those particular neurons are regenerating and rebuilding?
they do, but at a very
Slow
slow
rate.
pace. Neurons, they are 1 millimeter growth in the neuron or a nerve cell will take a very long time.
Wow.
So their growth is very, very slow.
Okay.
Yeah.
So people should bear that in mind, obviously, if somebody they know or a
Yeah.
loved one has been through that
Yeah.
kind of surgery, not to expect
Exactly.
everything.
So usually they go through physiotherapy thereafter to help with their motor skills, etc. Gradually to have improvement.
I've heard in some extreme cases, neurons get crossed, or they start to read things that they didn't read before. For instance, taste. Coca-Cola would have been Coca-Cola before surgery. Afterwards, it may taste like charcoal.
Well, those are the extreme things that can happen in surgery in such circumstances. There are times that we have nerve that cross. For example, under normal circumstances, and we have what we call the cortex of the brain to the spine. So there are pathways. We call them pathways. So my movements and all these things, my motor skills are from cortex into my spine. We call it the corticospinal pathway. That is for motor movement. Now, coming down from the brain, it gets to a point we call the pyramids. We call them discussion. So it comes and they cross, so that the left side of the brain will actually be controlling the right side of your body, and the right side of your brain will controlling the left side of your body. So if there's a problem on the right, it will affect the other side of your body. That is below, but above it may be the same.
That's why usually when you have a heart attack, you hold your right arm. Is that right?
Not necessarily.
We'll talk about that another time. But Dr. Boite, I want to say a big thank you once again for coming in and helping us with another topic which we need to educate people about. And once again, happy birthday to your mother in advance.
So,
and happy birthday to my grandma as well today. And now our health is okay.
Yeah.
This health segment has been brought to you by Lipton Tea, inspiration flowing from nature. We shall return on New Day in just a few moments. Stay with us.